We live in a world filled with constant noise, endless attempts at control, and perpetual striving. Each of us holds on to something that we should have released years ago. But here's a profound question. What if true peace doesn't arrive when we've finally fixed everything? What if it actually comes the moment we release our grip? The Buddha offered us timeless wisdom when he said, "You only lose what you cling to." These aren't merely words to remember. They represent a philosophy for living. The act of letting go is not a sign of weakness. It's wisdom in action. It's not about surrendering your dreams, but rather about releasing whatever no longer brings value to your life. So today, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, slow everything down, tune into yourself. Because the instant you release what doesn't serve you is the same instant you return home to your peace, to your clarity, to who you truly are. Let go and allow peace to begin. First, release your need for control, because control itself is an illusion. So many of us walk through life with a deeply held belief. If we could just manage everything around us, our relationships, our future, the way others see us, then safety, respect, and peace would finally be ours. We plan obsessively. We try to fix the people in our lives. We stress endlessly about outcomes. We grip tightly to our routines. But no matter how hard we try to orchestrate everything, life simply refuses to follow our script. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a fundamental teaching known as anicca, which means impermanence. It teaches us that everything in existence is in constant motion. People grow and transform. Circumstances shift, emotions rise and fall, seasons change, relationships evolve. Even our deepest beliefs transform over time. Nothing remains fixed. So when we attempt to control what is naturally designed to change, we create our own suffering. We experience pain on two levels. First, there's the fear and anxiety that comes from constantly trying to keep everything in place. Second, there's the heartbreak and disappointment when things inevitably fall apart anyway, because they will. Releasing control doesn't mean you stop caring about your life. It doesn't mean you abandon planning or responsibility. It simply means you stop clinging. You stop believing that peace can only exist when life bends to match your will. Instead of resisting the natural flow of life, you begin to move with it. Like water flowing through a river, you move with grace, with awareness, without applying force. You learn to adapt rather than to grip. You discover strength not in tightness, but in your capacity to remain calm when uncertainty arrives. True strength isn't about forcing outcomes to match your desires. It's about trusting the present moment. It's about meeting life exactly as it is, not how you wish it would be. The moment you stop trying to control every single thing is the exact moment you discover a deeper kind of power, the power of peace, the power of acceptance, the power of clarity. Letting go is not failure, it's wisdom. It's the soft courage required to release what lies outside your control and focus on what you can truly influence: your own thoughts, your reactions, and your choices. In that shift, real peace is born. Now, let's move to the third lesson: release attachment, because what you own ends up owning you. Attachment is one of the deepest sources of human suffering. We attach ourselves to people, to outcomes, to identities, to possessions. We believe that by holding tightly to these things, we'll secure happiness, safety, or a sense of purpose. But in reality, attachment is a trap disguised as comfort. In Buddhism, attachment is called tanha, which means craving or clinging. It appears when we try to hold on to things that are, by their very nature, temporary. A relationship, no matter how filled with love, will eventually change. A job, no matter how secure it seems, may one day end. Even our bodies, our status, our abilities, these will all shift and fade. The tighter we grip, the more pain we experience when things inevitably transform. We start to feel loss, We resist growth. We become anxious about the future. This creates suffering, not because things are actually changing, but because we expected them to stay the same. Letting go of attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you begin to care differently. With openness, not possession, we learn to love without needing to own, to enjoy without needing to cling, to give without expecting anything in return. It's the difference between holding a bird gently in your hands and locking it inside a cage. When you allow life, people, and experiences to be free, you give them space to breathe, and you give yourself the space to discover peace. Attachment is often rooted in fear, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being enough, the fear of losing what we think gives us value. But when we examine these fears closely, we realize that our peace cannot come from anything outside ourselves. It must come from within. The Buddha taught that freedom begins when we stop tying our happiness to things we cannot control. When we stop saying, "I need this to be okay," and start saying, "I am okay no matter what comes or goes." Because in truth, what you own, if you cling too tightly, ends up owning you. You become a prisoner of your desires, your expectations, your fears. But the one who lets go becomes free, free to love without fear, free to walk through life with an open heart and a steady mind, free to experience deep, lasting peace, not because of what they have, but because of what they've released. Let go, and you'll realize you were never missing anything. You were just holding on too tightly to what you were meant to set free. Fourth, let go of the past, because it's already gone. The past can become a quiet prison. We carry memories like heavy stones, regrets over what we did, shame over what we failed to do, sadness over what we lost. Our minds often replay these old moments, hoping to find closure or to somehow rewrite the ending. But no matter how many times we revisit the past, we cannot change it. What's done is done. In Buddhism, one of the most powerful teachings is mindfulness, living in the present moment with complete awareness and acceptance. That's because the present is the only moment that's truly alive. The past is merely a memory. The future is only a dream. The only place where we can breathe, act, and find peace is right now. But when we cling to the past, we become blind to the beauty of the present. We walk through life looking backward, carrying guilt, bitterness, and pain from events that no longer exist. It's like dragging a bag of broken glass behind us, somehow hoping one day it will make us whole. Letting go of the past doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It doesn't mean ignoring your pain or forgetting the important lessons you learned. It means you choose not to let the past define you anymore. It means you stop feeding energy to memories that steal your peace and your power. You cannot heal what happened by obsessing over it. Healing begins when you stop trying to relive that moment and start asking, "What am I doing with this moment now?" The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from what happened, but from our attachment to what happened. It's not the memory itself that hurts us. It's our unwillingness to let it pass. Forgiveness is a part of this process. Forgiveness doesn't mean agreeing with what someone did. It means freeing yourself from the chain that keeps you tied to that pain. Whether it's someone else's mistake or your own, you forgive so you can be free. When you stop carrying the weight of the past, something beautiful happens. You become lighter. You begin to see life more clearly. You make space inside yourself for new joy, deeper peace, and real freedom. Some people stay stuck in their old story for years, but you are not your past. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become now. Let go of the old chapters. Let the pain breathe. Let the grief flow, and then gently let it go, because the past is already gone. But your peace, your future, your present moment, that is still in your hands. Fifth, let go of ego, because it separates you from everything. The ego is the invisible mask we wear. It's the story we tell ourselves about who we are and what makes us important. It whispers things like, I am better than them. I can't be wrong. I must win. I need them to see how powerful I am. At first glance, ego looks like confidence. It looks like ambition, pride, and self-respect. But look deeper, and you'll see the truth. Ego is fear in disguise. Fear of being overlooked, fear of being unimportant, fear of losing control. In Buddhism, the concept of anatta, or non-self, teaches us that there is no permanent, solid self. Who you are is not a fixed identity. You are not your name, your job, your body, or your opinions. You are not even your thoughts. You are the awareness beneath it all, the presence watching the experience unfold. But the ego tries to protect a false identity. It builds walls between us and others. It says, this is me, and that is you. It separates, it competes, it constantly compares. It clings to the need to be seen, to be right, to be superior. And in doing so, it isolates you, not only from others, but from your own peace. Think about it. How many arguments were created not by truth, but by ego needing to win? How many relationships were destroyed not by lack of love, but by someone refusing to say, I was wrong? How often do we feel angry, hurt, or offended simply because our ego got bruised? The ego is obsessed with image. It wants others to see you as powerful, wise, successful, untouchable. But this image is not you. It's a costume, a fragile shell that must constantly be defended and maintained. And the moment someone questions it or doesn't treat you the way you expect, the ego feels attacked. Letting go of ego doesn't mean you have no identity. It means you no longer need to cling to one. You no longer define yourself by status, labels, possessions, or being right. You realize that your value is not based on how people see you, but on your own internal truth. The ego says, if I win, I am worthy. The deeper self says, I am already whole. I need nothing to prove that. When you let go of ego, humility replaces pride. Understanding replaces judgment. Stillness replaces chaos. You become open, able to listen, to learn, to admit fault, to grow. You become soft, but not weak, rooted, but not rigid. And most importantly, you reconnect with life, with others, with the deep peace within yourself. The Buddha never said, become more important. He said, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Ego fills us with noise, always speaking, always justifying, always needing attention. But the wise person learns to be quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they no longer need to prove anything. The one who lets go of ego becomes like water, calm, clear, reflective, able to adapt, to heal, to nourish. They don't need to fight the river, they flow with it. They don't need to shout their worth, they embody it. In letting go of ego, you return to your natural state, peaceful, connected, whole. You no longer seek approval, dominance, or status. You seek truth. And in that search, you find yourself. Not the false self you built to be accepted, but the real self that was always there, quietly waiting beneath the noise. So drop the mask. Drop the need to win, to be right, to be admired. Breathe and let go. Because in the absence of ego, true peace is found. Sixth, let go of expectations because they create suffering. Expectations are the invisible chains we place on life. They are silent agreements we make with the world, most of the time without telling anyone. We expect people to behave a certain way. We expect events to unfold according to our plans. We expect our kindness to be returned, our efforts to be appreciated, and our love to be reciprocated. But when these expectations go unmet, and they often do, we feel betrayed, frustrated, even heartbroken. Buddhism teaches that one of the main roots of suffering is attachment to desire, and expectation is simply another form of desire. It is the mind saying, Things must go this way for me to be okay, and that must becomes a trap. Imagine walking into a room and expecting everyone to greet you warmly. You've built a mental picture, but what happens when they don't? Suddenly, you feel rejected, not because anyone was cruel, but because reality didn't match your imagined outcome. Your peace was not disturbed by the people. It was disturbed by the expectation you placed on them. The Buddha taught the power of non-attachment, not just to material things, but to thoughts, beliefs, and outcomes. When we expect the world to move according to our script, we create tension. We're constantly measuring what is against what we thought should be, and every time there's a gap, suffering enters. Letting go of expectations does not mean you stop dreaming, hoping, or planning. It means you engage with life fully while releasing your tight grip on how it must unfold. It's the ability to act with intention and then surrender the result. It's the wisdom of saying, I will give my best effort, but I do not control the outcome. One of the greatest sources of disappointment in relationships comes from unspoken expectations. We expect our friends to understand us without needing to explain. We expect our partner to know what we need without asking. We expect people to show up in the same way we do, and when they don't, we assume they don't care. But the truth is, they're living from their own perspective, not ours. Peace in relationships comes not from trying to mold others, but from learning to see them as they are. When you let go of trying to change people or fit them into your ideals, you create space for real connection, one based on acceptance, not performance. The same applies to life's events. We expect success to come quickly. We expect our plans to be smooth. We expect life to be fair. But life has its own flow. It doesn't follow human timelines or logic. Sometimes what looks like a delay is protection. What feels like rejection is redirection. What seems like a failure is simply part of the unfolding. When you're chained to expectations, you miss the beauty of what's actually happening. You spend so much time comparing life to your internal blueprint that you forget to experience the moment in front of you. Letting go of expectations is not giving up. It's waking up. It's stepping into the present with open hands, not clenched fists. It's moving from this must happen to let me see what happens. It's transforming control into curiosity. The lotus does not demand the sunrise at a certain time. It blooms when it's ready. The river does not demand the rocks to move. It flows around them. Likewise, when we stop demanding that life meet our expectations, we begin to meet life. When something doesn't go as expected, ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's surrender. Maybe it's resilience. Every broken expectation holds within it an invitation to grow, to release, to trust. And let's not forget expectations of ourselves. We often carry unrealistic standards. I must always be strong. I should be further along. I can't fail. These self-imposed rules become heavy burdens. Letting go of them means honoring your humanity. It means allowing yourself to rest, to make mistakes, to evolve at your own pace. The Buddha said, "You can only lose what you cling to." When you let go of expectations, you lose nothing essential. You only lose the suffering created by insisting the world conform to your script, and in return, you gain peace, openness, freedom. So, breathe. Trust life a little more. Let go of how it should be and make space to appreciate how it is. Because often, the peace we seek isn't found in getting everything we expected. It's found in learning to love what we didn't expect at all. Seventh, let go of the need to be understood, because truth needs no defense. One of the quiet struggles that most people experience, but rarely talk about, is the deep desire to be understood, to be seen for who we truly are, to have our intentions recognized, to be heard without being judged. This need for validation often begins in childhood and follows us into adulthood, shaping the way we speak, think, and even act. We explain ourselves. We defend our actions. We try to correct misunderstandings. We want people to know our heart. But here is the truth Buddhism gently teaches. The need to be understood by everyone is a form of attachment, and like all attachments, it leads to suffering. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will appreciate your silence, your growth, your boundaries, your truth. And that is okay. The Buddha taught that equanimity, a state of calmness and balance, is one of the highest qualities we can develop. Equanimity means being steady in the face of both praise and blame. It means your inner peace doesn't rise or fall based on how others see you. You begin to live not from reaction, but from clarity. The problem with constantly seeking to be understood is that it ties your peace to something external, another person's perception. And no matter how clearly you explain yourself, no matter how kind or sincere you are, some people will still misunderstand you. Not because you failed, but because they are listening through the lens of their own beliefs, fears, wounds, and expectations. Trying to force someone to see your heart is like yelling into a storm, hoping it will stop raining. It drains your energy and leaves you frustrated. The truth is, not everyone is meant to understand your path because they haven't walked it. Not everyone can feel your depth because they haven't lived your pain. And not everyone can hold your vision because they haven't seen what you've seen. Letting go of the need to be understood is not about becoming cold or disconnected. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional trap of over-explaining, over-defending, and overthinking. It's about honoring your truth so deeply that you no longer need others to confirm it. You start to realize, my truth doesn't need to be broadcast. It just needs to be lived. My peace doesn't come from their agreement. It comes from my own alignment. My worth is not dependent on being seen. It is inherent. This kind of quiet self-trust is powerful. It's the strength of a monk who walks alone but walks in peace. It's the calm of a person who knows their intentions are pure, even if others question them. It's the freedom of a soul that no longer needs approval to breathe freely. There's a beautiful Buddhist metaphor. Be like the tree that stands still as the wind moves through it. The wind represents opinions, judgments, misunderstandings. The tree is your grounded self. It feels the wind, but it does not bend with every gust. It remains rooted in its truth. When someone misunderstands you, take a breath. Ask yourself, is it worth explaining, or is it better to be at peace? Sometimes silence is more powerful than any argument, not because you're weak, but because you've matured beyond needing to convince. There will be moments in life when the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stay quiet. Not out of avoidance, but out of wisdom. You've realized that defending yourself to someone who doesn't want to understand you is like planting seeds in barren soil. This applies in relationships, family, even work. Sometimes you'll be judged for choosing peace over drama. Sometimes you'll be labeled cold for setting boundaries. Sometimes your inner transformation will be met with suspicion rather than support. But if you know your heart is clean, let that be enough. The Buddha said, silence is sometimes the best answer, because silence is not empty. It's full of understanding, power, and restraint. It's the response of someone who knows that truth stands firm, even when it's questioned. Over time, you'll notice something beautiful. The more you release the need to be understood, the more at ease you become. You start doing things not to impress, but because they feel right. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You stop chasing approval and start attracting peace. Letting go of the need to be understood doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you finally come home to yourself. You no longer wait for others to reflect your worth back to you. You become your own mirror. And in that quiet space, where explanation fades and truth remains, you find something priceless: freedom. You'll still be misunderstood, you'll still be judged, but none of it will shake you. Because when you've let go of needing to be understood, you've already found something better: inner clarity that doesn't need to shout. Eighth, let go of resistance, because what you resist persists. There is a quiet struggle happening inside many of us, a battle between the way life is and the way we think it should be. This battle is called resistance. We resist our emotions. We resist the difficult moments. We resist what we can't control, can't predict, and can't understand. We carry the idea that life should follow our plan, and when it doesn't, we push back. We fight reality with our thoughts, our complaints, our frustration. But in Buddhism, we learn that suffering is not in the experience itself. It's in how we resist it. Pain is a part of life, but suffering is optional. The moment you say, "This shouldn't be happening," you step away from life. You move into a fight with it. And no one wins a fight against the present moment. Think of a river flowing downstream. If you jump in and try to swim upstream, resisting the current, you will tire, struggle, and eventually be dragged under. But if you surrender and float, trusting the current, you move with the water, not against it. Life is that river, always moving, always changing, and your peace is found in your ability to flow, not control. Resistance appears in many ways. It shows up when you hold a grudge, refusing to release old pain. It appears when you fear change, even though change is simply part of life. It shows up when you call your emotions bad or wrong and push them away. It shows up when you avoid the truth of the moment because it feels uncomfortable. But here's the twist. The more you try to avoid a feeling, the longer it stays. The more you try to escape discomfort, the bigger it grows. The more you try to control everything, the more out of control life seems. Buddhism teaches us to practice radical acceptance, which means taking life as it comes, without judgment or resistance. This doesn't mean we accept injustice or stop trying to grow. It means we stop fighting what is already here. If you're angry, acknowledge the anger. If you're sad, allow the sadness to be fully felt. If life feels messy, stop pretending it should be neat. Acceptance is strength, not weakness. It takes courage to feel what you feel, to face reality and stop running. When you resist, you create tension. When you accept, you create space to breathe. You start to see, this is happening, and I can meet it with awareness. This is hard, but I can move through it. This isn't what I expected, but maybe it's what I need. Letting go of resistance doesn't mean you like everything that happens. It means you understand that fighting reality only increases your pain. A storm won't stop because you shout at it. It passes when you stop wishing for sun and instead find shelter in your awareness. The Buddha said that just as a solid rock isn't moved by a storm, the wise remain steady through praise or blame. This steady presence comes from surrender, not from giving up, but from accepting the truth of the moment. It's about dropping the inner battle, the silent "this shouldn't be," and replacing it with "this is." When you stop resisting, you return to your breath, your body, and the calm beneath all the chaos. You stop expecting life to owe you anything and start living as though every moment has something to teach, because it does. That heartbreak? It's teaching you to be gentle. That failure? It's teaching you humility. That silence? It's teaching you to listen. Every challenge brings a lesson, but you can't receive it if you're fighting it. Surrender isn't passive, it's an active choice. It means being fully present in your own experience. You choose to respond, not react. You choose to grow, not hold tightly. You choose peace, not control. Think about how much energy you've used resisting life, resisting change, endings, uncertainty, or not being perfect. What if you used that same energy to listen, breathe, and soften? What if you stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead asked, "What is this moment inviting me to release?" Letting go of resistance is like loosening a tight knot inside your chest. Once you stop pulling, the knot begins to loosen. You feel lighter, not because the situation changed, but because you did. The mind wants control. The ego wants comfort. But the soul wants truth. And truth appears when you make room for it. When you stop resisting and begin embracing, every time you resist, you're saying, I know better than life. But every time you surrender, you're saying, I trust the wisdom in what's unfolding, and that trust is where deep peace lives. So today, breathe into the discomfort. Let the moment be as it is. Notice your resistance, and then gently release it. You don't need to fight so much. You don't need to carry the weight of what you cannot change. The storm will pass, the river will move you, and peace will meet you, not when everything is fixed, but when you finally let go. Letting go isn't a single moment. It's a quiet, steady practice. It's a choice, moment by moment, to return to peace. You let go of control, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that life flows best when you stop fighting it. When you stop resisting life's current, you let go of attachment, not because you don't care, but because real love is about freedom, not possession. You let go of the past, not to forget, but to free yourself from what cannot be changed. You let go of ego, not to lose yourself, but to remember who you truly are beneath all the noise and roles. You let go of expectations, not to lower your standards, but to raise your awareness and meet life as it really is, not as you think it should be. You let go of the need to be understood, not to isolate yourself, but to trust your truth in silence, without seeking approval. And you let go of resistance, not to give up, but to breathe deeply and let peace find you where it has always lived. The world will still try to pull you back into the storm, but remember this: you were never meant to control the wind. You were meant to learn to stand still, let go, and trust the sky to clear on its own. Letting go isn't the end. It's the start of clarity, compassion, and deep, steady peace. So wherever you are, whatever you're holding, take a deep breath and gently ask yourself, is it time to let go? Because when you do, you won't fall, you'll rise.